sorry. Just a sound check, test one, test one. White balance off my forehead. Got it? Perfect. Everybody good? Okay. We'll start in 3 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming here and helping us help our community. I'd like to introduce those standing behind me, my executive assistant, our mayor, Mike Romerman, city manager, Bill Schwer, my deputy chief, Andy Vaughn. We have retired chief Tim Fitch. I know he's known to all of you and will be integral in this interview. Retired Chief Barton. I have a lot of retired chiefs on my staff. And Melissa Price-Smith and her staff. And the prosecuting attorney she'll be addressing us in a moment. First of all, we're here today to talk about a case that has never been forgotten, the tragic murder of Marge Walsh. 45 years ago on April 24th, 1980, Marge's life was senselessly taken from us at the Ellisville Dairy Queen on Clayton Road. She wasn't just a victim. She was a mother, a neighbor, and a friend. For 4.5 decades, her family has lived with the knowledge that she was taken from them senselessly and with no closure. Someone out there knows what happened to Marge. Maybe it's a memory you've held out for years, or a piece of the story that you didn't know mattered to us. Well, it does. Now's the time to come forward. We're asking for the public's help. If you have any information at all, no matter how small it seems, please contact us or reach out anonymously to Crime Stoppers. A reward of up to $5,000 is available for information that leads to an arrest. We believe that justice delayed doesn't have to be justice denied. We want the Walsh family to know that we have not given up. We've reopened this case with renewed focus, using modern forensic tools and exploring every possible lead. We are determined to identify the person responsible for this heinous crime. To that end, I have assigned a well-known and prominent law enforcement executive with decades of experience investigating homicides and serious crimes. I will have investigator retired Chief Tim Fitch address the public in a moment. One of the hallmarks to solving crimes like this is cooperation amongst not only our law enforcement partners, but our prosecutorial partners. To that end, we have Melissa Price Smith, our St. Louis County prosecutor, who is a tremendous victims advocate and a huge supporter of law enforcement in general and the Ellisville Police Department in this matter. So I would like to bring her to the podium just to address you for a moment. Ms. Smith?
Good morning. Thank you all so much for being here. Victims of murders are never forgotten, and even in death, they deserve justice. But sadly, not all crimes are solved, but even those victims are never forgotten. I'm here today to applaud the persistence of the Ellisville Police Department for never forgetting victims like Margaret Walsh. She was murdered in 1980 here in Ellisville, and that case was never solved. Fortunately, there is no statute of limitations on murder. Based on this case and cases like this, our office is now starting a cold case unit, which will be led by Jerry McDonald, who's here with us today. Jerry is a veteran state prosecutor and a former assistant U.S. attorney. Jerry and his team will ensure that law enforcement has all the resources they need to work on these cold cases and to ensure that victims know that they are not forgotten. Although years have passed and stories like this one about Margaret Walsh are no longer in the headlines, we are very aware that her family and friends still suffer her loss every day. And we owe it to her and victims like her to continue to seek justice. Thank you so much for being here on this important day.
People ask why we look at things like this. We truly believe in law enforcement, and specifically in the Ellisville community, that we want to bring closure and justice to any case that may be open like this. It was a true tragedy that occurred, and while it occurred a long time ago, education and tools have changed that allow us to reopen and look at cases more closely. I'm very fortunate in our community. I have several police chiefs, a retired Chief Mike Wiegand, retired Chief Tim Fitch, who's known to everyone here, to look at things like this for me and on my behalf. So when Tim came on board, I asked him to look into this, and I don't mind telling you, he has literally put in hours and hours on this case. I would like to bring up Tim at this time to update you on the case, where we are, and what we're looking for. Tim?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
And that was Chief Steve Lewis. I'll introduce you, Steve.
Thank you.
That's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Well, good morning, everyone. When I asked Chief Lewis, when I came on board as a volunteer officer for Ellisville, I said, did Ellisville, has it ever had a homicide? Because much of my background was investigating homicides, supervising homicides. He said, we've had one in the history of Ellisville. It happened in 1980 and it's still unsolved. And I said, I'd be happy to take a look at it. And that was in April. So I've been working on this case since April, and I could probably tell you everything about Marge's family and what led up to this. And I'm going to cover some of the timeline with you. And at the end of this, we will open this up for questions for either the prosecutor or Chief Lewis, myself. Chief Barton is here on behalf of the Major Case Squad, so we will be able to answer questions for you. But also understand, there are some things that we will not discuss because we have to keep some of these things quiet and secret, because when we find the real killer, that person's going to know the details that I haven't released to the media. Now, knowing the media the way I do, you all have done a lot of research on this case already. You know what's been released in the past. This happened 45 years ago. I was a freshman in college when this happened. So there are things that are already out in the media. If you want to ask me about it, I'll be happy to address those if you've already done that. So Margaret Walsh, and everybody, her friends call her Marge. You all friends here, right? Call her Marge, right? Marge was a part-time night manager at the Dairy Queen at 15850 Clayton Road. Then it was numbered 1266 Clayton Road. It's been renumbered since then. On the night of April 23rd, she was the night manager. She was working full-time also with the Parkway School District. She was a secretary at Parkway South Junior High School, now called Parkway South Middle School. And I'd like to thank the Parkway School District for their assistance in this matter as well. They provided us with the photograph that you see here from the 79-80 yearbook that Marge was in. So, and they're also working on some other requests that we have as well. So let's talk a little bit more about Marge. Marge had 3 children at the time, 16, 18, and 21. All are deceased. None had children of their own. Marge was divorced, and her ex-husband had remarried. Her ex-husband is deceased. I located and interviewed her ex-husband's second wife, who still lives in the community. Marge has a surviving sister who lives in Massachusetts. I've spoken with her several times since the case was reopened. Marge had a boyfriend at the time of the homicide. I was also able to determine that he is now deceased. She was working that night with 3 Lafayette High School students. They were helping her close up for the night. One left earlier. The other 2 left just about 10:30, 10:45 that night, the 23rd of April, 1980. So she saw the last 2 off. They went out the back door, they got in their cars and they left, and that left her in the restaurant by herself. Typically, Marge was home between 11 to 11:15 to 11:30. Well, we know she clocked out at 10 minutes to 11 that night. That doesn't mean she left the restaurant then. That's when she clocked out. She was known to stay a little later after she clocked out to finish her duties. So she did not show up at home that night, but nobody knew that because everybody was already in bed. So she wasn't discovered until the next morning, a little after 7, by the co-owner of the restaurant. Co-owner of the restaurant came in, found the place was ransacked. She saw Marge's car out front. By the way, I put some photographs, historical photographs over here of the building if you need any of that. So when the co-owner showed up that next morning, the 24th, a little after 7 a.m., she saw Marge's car parked out front. And she thought, well, that's strange. Marge shouldn't be here. Maybe she forgot something. Maybe she came by. She didn't know. So she went into the building, and unfortunately, she found Marge had been shot to death in the back office area. So there was nobody there with Marge employee-wise when this happened. So as you can see, there's no witnesses to this other than the killer or killers. So she was found. The Ellisville police were called. They immediately called the major case squad, who then activated the squad and came out to investigate this. They did their traditional 5-day investigation. They were unable to locate any solid leads. So there were multiple dozens of investigators that worked on this. I have already interviewed 2 of the original investigators that were there that day to see if there's anything else I could gain. I have found the 3 Lafayette High School students and interviewed all 3 of them to see if there was anything else that could be gained from this. And I will tell you, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I do want to point out Ashley Kaliangis, am I close? Ashley is Chief Lewis's executive assistant. Amazing finding people that have not been able to be found for a lot of years. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I also wanted to thank Paul Keller, Lieutenant Keller, who's helped with the evidence on this, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. So reviewing the police reports, reviewing the investigator's report, here's what I gathered from that. It appeared that Marge was leaving for the night. She had stepped out the front door and either locked or was preparing to lock the door when she was confronted by someone. We don't know who. Go back inside. The entire office area had been ransacked, probably looking for money or whatever they were looking for. But she had already dropped the day's receipts into the safe, and she did not have the combination for the safe, so she could not open the safe. So all they got was about $125, which was the startup money for the next day. They were in 2 drawers. So the money was in the drawers. That's all that we could see was taken. Marge's purse had been ransacked, emptied out, those type of things. The back office area was completely ransacked. So speculation, maybe looking for the combination for the safe. Don't know what that was all about. But probably shortly thereafter, she was shot and killed and left on the floor in the office area. Now, why does somebody kill somebody for $125? You have to ask yourself that. A couple reasons. Some of these really bad people that we deal with quite often have the mentality of no witness, no trial. Did she know the individual? Is that why they killed her? Because she knew him? We don't know the answer to that. But we do know that she was brutally shot and killed and just left there on the floor of the restaurant. I know this has had to have affected her family, her kids. There's no way it couldn't have. Like I said, they're all deceased, and they were basically my age then. So I will tell you that from here, where do we go from here? The major case squad disbanded, and what happens is when they disband, they hand it back to the original agency, so it's handed back to Ellisville Police. They reinvestigated the case in 1983, 1991, and again slightly in 2006. During the reinvestigation, detectives believed that the suspect was someone named Maurice Oscar Byrd. Some of the older media people in the room may remember that name. Remember the name? Maurice Byrd was the individual the state of Missouri executed for robbing and killing 4 people at the Pope's Cafeteria in West County Mall in Des Peres. For those that weren't around then or old enough to remember that. When he killed those 4 people at Pope's Cafeteria, he fled the scene, and the major case squad investigated that, but they couldn't solve that at that time. So he fled to Savannah, Georgia, where his wife lived and was from. There he went on to kill about 7 more people, best we could tell. He was captured in Savannah for those crimes. While in jail, he confessed to the Pope's Cafeteria murder to a cellmate who was wanting to work off time. That's pretty common. So the cellmate, of course, went to the police and said, my cellmate said he killed 4 people at a restaurant in St. Louis. They looked into it, found out it was him. There was a witness, by the way, that saw Maurice Byrd, he was identified later, going to his car after the Pope's Cafeteria murders. So the witness identified him. That, along with the information from the cellmate, led to his conviction by Buzz Westfall, who was the prosecuting attorney at the time, and he was executed by the state of Missouri. Now, the investigators here in Ellisville thought they could be related. Think about that. The Dairy Queen murder happens in April of 1980. The Pope's Cafeteria murder happened 6 months later. Homicides in West County are very unusual, even in 1980, very unusual. So they rightfully thought that Maurice Byrd could have something to do with this. They interviewed him multiple times, even when he was on death row preparing for execution. The Ellisville detectives went to death row and interviewed him right before he was executed, and he said, I didn't do it, didn't have anything to do with it, and that was all he had to say. So it was never closed, but a lot of people thought it was Maurice Byrd. In 1983, remember, we're talking about 1980 originally, so let's move up to 1983. In 1983, this police department, detective from this police department, started looking into Maurice Byrd's background. Maurice Byrd was a security guard at SLU, St. Louis University. That's what he did for a living. He, by the way, he had applied to be a police officer to go into the police academy. So he had a little bit of knowledge of law enforcement, security work, that type of thing, which is really scary when they turn bad. So they found out, they asked for work records from SLU, and it showed that he was working the night of April 23rd, 1980. He was working till 11:30 p.m. according to the roster, and checked in and clocked in out at 11:30 p.m. So think about the timeline that I talked about earlier. The last people that saw her alive was around 10:30, 10:45. So that means he would have had to drive at 11:30 from downtown out to here, commit the murder, ransack the place, and leave and be back at work at 11:30 to clock out. Can you see why that's just it's not likely. Not likely that Maurice Byrd did it. So if Maurice Byrd didn't do it, who did? So that's where we're at today. I wish I could have come here today. We could have all come here today and say we have an absolute solid case against someone. We don't. What we do have are things that need to be investigated more thoroughly. There are pieces of this. We have forensic. Lieutenant Keller took the evidence out to Clayton, to the county crime lab. It's all been resubmitted, including the bullet that was taken from Marge, from her body. In 1980, there wasn't a lot of forensics out there. We didn't have DNA in 1980. I didn't come on the county police until 83. We didn't have DNA then. When I was in homicide, it was just getting started. So all of her clothes, Ellisville did a great job preserving this evidence. Without that, we don't know what we'd have. So all of that's been taken back to the county crime lab to be retested with the new technologies that we have today. So that's going on as we speak. Most interested, of course, in the bullet that was taken from her body. Can that be matched up with other, like future shootings that happened after this? So we're doing that right now. So what do we need from you? What we need is your help, the public. We need your help. I've already started getting some new tips that are in. Most of them start like this. Well, I don't know if this guy did it, but I went to high school with a guy that we all said did it. That was the rumor. He did it. So I'm already hearing a lot of new names. So what I need from the public is to continue to feed us and give us that information. Now, why is this different today, 45 years later? It's different because a lot of people that folks may have been afraid of are dead. They're too old to hurt you. You know, sometimes people won't come forward because they're afraid to come forward. What we need people to do is say, you know what, it's 45 years later. Let's give this family some closure. So that's what we're going to ask of you. So here's what you can do. Please call Crime Stoppers. You see it on the screen behind me, 866-371-TIPS. And if you call, you can leave, we want you to be anonymous. We want you to be anonymous. And you will be eligible up to a $5,000 reward if you can call in and it leads to an arrest. And I will even tell you that if the person is dead that did this, that's okay, because we can give their family and friends some closure if we can prove that it was someone that's no longer alive. If you want to speak to me directly, I'll be happy to call you back. If you can call our office here at Ellisville, 636-227-7777. And you'll probably talk to Ashley, and she will forward that over to me. All right, let me see what else I have for you, and then we'll go right into questions. Well, I just want to tell you how I feel about this. Marge was a daughter, a mother, a sister, coworker, and friend. She was loved deeply. I've learned a lot of this about Marge, and she mattered. Her life was stolen in 1980, and for 45 years, her family and friends have carried the weight of unanswered questions. Today, we stand with them, not just as law enforcement officers, but as fellow human beings who believe that every person deserves justice, no matter how much time has passed. This case is personal, not just to Marge's family, but to every investigator that touched it. We've reviewed thousands of pages of reports, re-examined physical evidence, and are applying forensic techniques that simply didn't exist 45 years ago. We've reopened this case with fresh eyes and new tools. We're also revisiting witness statements and re-engaging the community, because time can change what people remember, what they're willing to share, and what they now realize matters. We know that someone out there may hold a piece of the truth. Maybe you were young, maybe you were scared. Maybe you didn't realize what you saw or heard could matter, but it does. And now is the time to speak. To Marge's friends and loved ones, we see you, we hear you, and we are committed to walking this path with you until the truth is known. All right, we're ready to take any questions that you might have. If you want to let us know. Yes?
Yeah, back in 1980, media reported that there were two suspects believed to be about 25 years old. Can you talk about how investigators got to that conclusion, and if that is still what you believe to be?
Great question. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, that's absolutely true. They were committing a series of robberies in Kirkwood, Crestwood, and South County. Is that the one you're talking about? So they did identify who those individuals were, and the investigators from Ellisville did interview them and basically alibied them out. So they weren't, later after that it originally came out. There was also, by the way, a series, I'm glad you brought that up, a series of robberies in North County that there was some talk about maybe involved in, because they were robbing people at closing time and making them open the safe, those type of things. Those, as an investigator, those are always things that you look at to see if they're related. Those were also alibied out. So it doesn't look like those were involved, but thanks.
So do you have any idea if you believe that it was one person and multiple people?
It's hard to say at this point if it was just one or more than one. I will tell you that from the looks of the office area that was ransacked, either it was one person that spent quite a bit of time in there, or there was more than one person. I can't tell that right now. So there are certainly some things that we're looking at and trying to eliminate different individuals that could or may have been involved, but it's too early to say.
So how many shots were fired?
One.
One, and of the items that you are investigating, so there were clothes and bullet, can you give us some of the other items that maybe you're looking into to help with the case?
Well, one of the things I'll tell you is that a witness then said they saw someone throw something out of a truck window as they were driving past the Dairy Queen that night. They didn't know what it was, but they let the Ellisville police know. Also, police went out the next day and searched this road area where he described that this item was thrown out, and a glove, like a surgical glove, was found thrown out the window. And I can tell you that I talked to the crime lab people last week about the glove. They still have it. So they're testing it for potential DNA, or the other thing you'll always look at is, does it have gunpowder residue on it? So, yeah, that's the other big piece.
And with one bullet, likely an execution style, it wasn't like running away and shooting.
No. No.
Do you believe that this could all be someone who had a personal vendetta against Marge and covered it up with sort of a robbery?
Always a possibility. Absolutely. You heard what I said earlier. This is someone that, why would you execute somebody for $125 unless no witness, no trial, or they knew her, she knew them? Is that how they got in the restaurant? She let them in? We don't know the answer to that, so that's a possibility, yes.
And said she had a boyfriend at
Yes.
the time who's no longer living. Is he a possible suspect?
He had an alibi that evening. He said he was at a bar with a couple people. The investigators back then found one of the people who verified that he was at the bar. He's deceased at this point. I would tell you there's still some work to be done on that with the other two individuals.
What about the deceased ex-husband?
The deceased ex-husband was talked with back then. He was given a polygraph back then. I don't have as much value in polygraphs as probably did in 1980, and I don't know what the experience. It was a private polygrapher that provided the test. So I will tell you that I know for a fact people can take a polygraph and lie and pass it. That could be. But basically the polygraph said he was being honest, that he had nothing to do with it. But I will tell you that there are some loose ends there that still need to be followed up on. Good question. Yes.
What about the father's alibi? Sorry, did you say that?
The father's alibi? Oh, you talk about the ex-husband's alibi? Yeah, that's what we're still working on, is that. Yeah, that still has to be firmed up. I will tell you it's not at this point.
Were any of her kids looked at the time?
Yes. But I don't understand why the daughter Kelly was given a polygraph test as well, but the two sons were not. I don't know the answer as to why they were not, and she was. There's no explanation as to why she was and they weren't.
She has a polygraph?
Yes.
How hopeful are you and your team working on this that will hopefully end in a closure and find it?
How hopeful? Very. Very hopeful. We're not going to give up on this until we get an answer. It's as simple as that. Any questions for the prosecutor?
Are there any like employees who weren't working that night, or somebody who might have been let go or anything like that?
There was no indication that there was anybody like that involved.
Another question for the prosecutor. On a different note, is someone in custody for Dorian Johnson's murder and Michael Brown's murder in 2014?
There was someone in custody. A charging decision has not been made on that. Once we receive all the information, a charging decision will be made.
Are they still in custody?
As of this morning, they were, but I have not gotten an update since I've been here. Anyone else?
Can you talk more about your new task force, the cold case group?
Absolutely. Our new cold case unit is being led by Jerry McDonald, like I said, who's here today. Jerry is a former assistant U.S. attorney, a veteran state prosecutor, and Jerry will be leading our cold case unit. As I've said every time I've had the opportunity, our office is victim-centered. We are ready to assist law enforcement in anything they need in this cold case or any cold case. Jerry will be ready to assemble a team as soon as anything is brought to our office by law enforcement. We feel very strongly, just like Chief Fitch said, that this victim and others like her will not be forgotten. She deserves justice. So Jerry is here, and he can answer any questions if you like, but he and his team are ready to assist in this at a moment's notice.
You know how many cases are open, cold cases?
Well, we assembled this team based on this case, so that we just started this. This is brand new. But yeah, we are open to anything law enforcement brings us, and we will work closely with them to find answers.
In this said, is this Ellisville's only, open homicide case?
Yes, it's our only open homicide case in the history of our police agency being a department.
So just a clarification, the only open one, if there have been other
This is our
homicides?
this is our only homicide of record
Only
in the
ever-
history of Ellisville.
Okay.
When you have a situation where the investigation was started by the Ellisville Police, went to the major case squad, then back to the Ellisville Police, and then the evidence goes to the county, is it a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, or is it a case of we have lots of eyes on this, it's gonna help it out?
I would like to actually applaud the efforts being put forth by investigators now. We all recognize 40-plus years, the technology and the knowledge base of what we know now versus what we knew then. We can look at things and really garner information and evidence that we had no opportunity to do so through no fault of any original investigators. I want to applaud the prosecuting attorney's office. They have been with us lockstep, not just in this case, in other crimes that we've needed their assistance with. They are phenomenal. They are truly there for the victims of crimes. Chief Fitch and my detective crew and the people that are involved in this. We're a smaller agency, but I don't mind saying I truly have some of the best investigators in the region looking at this. I am very confident that we're going to have some answers to this case that we never could have gotten at the initial onset of the investigation. So in answer to your question, we preserved the evidence appropriately. We've submitted it to new resources that are going to assist us, and I believe that that will lead to some very positive results. And so, no, there was not too many cooks in the kitchen per se. As many eyes as we can put on something like this, the better we are. Which, back to the public's help, I guarantee you somebody's still around that remembers something about this case that can be of help to us. I too have had people reach out to me relative to the original investigators, maybe some information and facts that if we can tie in some of the forensics, some of the DNA, some of the bullet information, I believe we're gonna go in a very positive direction, which is why we've called this press conference. It is important to us, not just because it's our only homicide, it's important to us because the family and the friends deserve closure.
Well, and I was gonna ask a follow-up about the only homicide. Is this something that any officer who ever comes to work for Ellisville knows about, it's talked about, and talk about how you need to come together and solve it?
We have, so the information, and it is in everybody's knowledge base, if you will. I will say it's probably not on the forefront of everyone's mind immediately every day they come to work. But that being said, the effort that Chief Fitch has put in towards this and the information that we're providing, not just to our department, but our city members, our community members, absolutely, it is at the forefront of what we're doing right now. If there's no other questions, again, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank the public's help enough. We do need your help. We're relying on you to help us solve this crime. Thank you very much. That will end today's press conference.